to this episode of Full Spectrum Living with CBD. I am your co-host Meredith, here with our hosts Jessica and Adrian. And today we're going to talk about how to set yourself up for success with CBD. So how to help yourself have a great experience with this. And Jessica, I know this is a huge passion topic for you, so you're going to kick us off today. Sure. What's one of these? We've got 5 tips. So what's your first one for today?
Well, I was just going to, basically this is coming from having clients come in occasionally that, really seems like their expectation is they'll take a CBD product and everything is going to improve despite, maybe eating a really poor quality diet and not moving enough and having a ton of pharmaceuticals. So there's a lot that influences it. I think the main thing to start off with is like, what are your expectations of CBD? Are they realistic? And is there a way that you can more accurately assess your expectation and the reality of how likely it is for it to be successful, but also measure that, how successful has it been for you in the past month or so? So I think that would be a really good place to start with the conversation here. Is just what is the consumer's expectation and what is the way that we can track what they are looking to achieve and what they are achieving to really evaluate how it's affecting them in that one specific area, and not writing it off just because maybe you didn't have a level 8 to level 0 pain change. So that would be one place to start.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, we've talked about how everybody's experience with CBD is a little bit different, how you can't pinpoint it and say it's going to be the same for everyone who uses even the same amount, right? And so I think what you're suggesting is that people really kind of document their experience so that they can manage their expectation, because sometimes people are going to see that shift quickly and sometimes it'll be over time, right?
Well, I think we also tend to forget at what level of pain or discomfort or what we were really experiencing once CBD has started working for you, and maybe it's been a month or two. And so all of a sudden you forget the level of inflammation that you had in your joints. And so documenting that, I think, is a good way. You can start off, and it doesn't have to be in a diary or a journal or anything, which, although that's a fantastic way to do it, it could literally be on a desk calendar where you're just sitting there thinking, you're like, pain level 8, inflammation, can't close my hands. So just small things like that. And then as you're tracking it through your servings and as you're going through the weeks, you will be able to look back and think, oh, wow, I was at an 8 before. I'm at a 4 now. I'm not pain free, but I'm definitely pain better, right? So I think having that way to really track and look back. I know parents with kids with epilepsy do this because the number of seizures, the length of the seizure, the severity of the seizure, they document all the time. So it's a great way to kind of look back and see at what level of benefit they're experiencing.
And I think on that note as well, I know I've mentioned in other podcasts, but to evaluate not just daily, but maybe prior to your serving and after your serving, kind of check back in and see if you're noticing any more immediate effects. So I've mentioned on here the inner inventory through the healer training that we go through. And I think definitely it applies here as well. So that is advocating that when a person takes cannabis, depending on their route of consumption, so assuming you're taking our oil or an oil, the peak effect that you would notice more immediately would be 1 to 2 hours in. And although many people don't immediately notice, an hour later, their pain is gone. Like that does not always happen, does not often happen with CBD. It's more of a long-term progress towards pain relief. But you can notice things like you're able to breathe more easily. You're able to get more comfortable when you're seated. You're able to smile more easily. Your mood has improved. Those are all signs that it's taking effect and working for you in a short period of time. So I would definitely say, if we're talking about checking in on yourself, to do it not just daily, but maybe around 1 or 2 hours after you take a CBD product, and just see what are the subtle changes that indicate that it is doing something, although it might not be everything you are wanting to immediately. What are the subtle differences that you're noticing, like ease of breath, comfort, and mood, that you can measure?
Awesome. So expectations, and then just checking in with yourself and noticing and being in tune with what's going on in your body. So what's another area that people can really help themselves in when it comes to maximizing the impact of CBD?
It's going to come down to diet and nutrition. It really is. And that's always everybody's favorite subject, right? Everybody loves to talk about what they're eating and how they can lose weight, but it really comes down to, whole foods and just eating better, more vitamin packed and nutrient foods. Because I like to use the example of, if you're using CBD to kind of help with gout, you can't eat red meat and drink a beer with it and then expect the CBD to make the gout go away or make the gout never come back again. So it really comes down to, you have to look at what you're consuming. You can't out-train a bad diet, right? So you need to think about it from that same aspect. And that doesn't mean that you can never have a steak, that you can never have a beer, that you can never have pizza. I'm not saying that at all. It's literally just about looking at what you're consuming and making better choices. Around the new year, everybody's always looking and making their resolutions. And so what better time, right, than to sit back and say, well, I know I'm going to eat better, so now I can put realistic expectations, and maybe my CBD will actually start working even better for me than what it already has been before.
And I would like to just add on to that. I believe we're going to be touching on this a little bit more in a future episode. But there are specific things that can boost the endocannabinoid system that we'll talk about later. One of those being chocolate. So some of them are very
fun,
nice, enjoyable ones, and things you can remove that have a more negative effect. Alcohol would be one of those, or minimizing your alcohol consumption. And there's a lot more to that, but I think what's always worked best for me is adding in positive things. So I would say start adding in more probiotics. We know there's a connection between the endocannabinoid system and your gut health, and that's something that we're trying to understand better, but that might be a good, thing to introduce instead of trying to just overhaul diet as a whole.
Absolutely. So diet would be kind of our second area where we definitely can help ourselves to make the experience better. What's our third?
I would say, stress management. And this might not be all particular orders, but definitely significant. Stress management, I think, plays a huge role in everything. CBD, of course, helps with stress management, but I think taking additional steps to manage your stress more effectively, it certainly helps to promote the endocannabinoid system as well. So it's just another thing you can do to maximize your health there. So of course, everyone's different in how they manage stress, but breathing exercise, meditation, yoga, those are all things that seem to be very closely related to endurance activities, like runners or people who just like to get out in nature and go for a walk. There's so many options, and we're all familiar with that, but just drawing the connection to how important that is to really get your endocannabinoid health up to speed. So I would say at least starting with some intentional deep breathing, just breathe more. That's a great place to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what about people, we were talking a little bit earlier that our fourth area was in relationship to pharmaceuticals. Yeah. So people that are taking meds, how should they manage that if they're integrating CBD?
Yeah, I think they should absolutely have a very honest conversation with their doctor. A lot of people, they just get in the routine. A doctor recommends a pharmaceutical, writes a prescription, they start taking it, they add it to a pill box. And then, so because they're not actually picking up each canister and opening them in each day because they're in this pill box, it becomes less apparent, I guess, or at least less obvious. Yes, I know they're still picking the pills out of the pill box and putting them in there, but you're not seeing the stack of all of these pill bottles that have kind of lined up. And so I think, honestly, having a very honest conversation with your doctor about, why am I taking this pharmaceutical? Is it still needed? Unfortunately, some physicians will practice in polypharmacy, and so they'll layer pharmaceuticals on top of each other that are intended to bring the same result. And so really looking at, do I need this? Could this possibly be replaced by CBD? We've had a lot of people that have reduced the number of pharmaceuticals that they're taking and just add CBD into their daily routine. So I think really, really looking at that pharmaceuticals are so taxing on the body and they cause so many other side effects, thus the need to layer on more pharmaceuticals. So I think that's a great place to start, and really doesn't require much. Doesn't require you to change your diet, doesn't require you to make time for meditation or yoga. It's literally call your doctor, go to make an appointment, and just at least reevaluate that.
Yeah, which is probably great. Sorry, Jessica. It's probably great advice across the board, right? Since we've talked about how many pharmaceuticals are out there in the U.S. market, to take a look at all of those.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying stop taking your pharmaceuticals. I am not saying that. I'm going to be very clear here. I am not saying just because you think you don't need them, stop taking them. Please consult your physician, talk to them about it, because a lot of these are very dangerous just to quit cold turkey.
Yeah. And I think the why that's important is because we know that CBD and many pharmaceuticals both metabolize through the liver in similar areas. And so it can negate one or either of them, just make them a little less effective. So why this is important in this conversation specifically is because, it can really get in the way of CBD's success as well. And of course, to Adrian's point, can be just taxing in and of itself. But I think that's the main takeaway from that is it's possible for it to make CBD less likely to have those benefits. And on that note, we always suggest a window between any CBD or cannabis product and any pharmaceutical as a general precaution. And our suggestion is 1 to 2 hours apart from each other. And that's just to help minimize the potential for them to interact. But the potential is always going to be there. It's certainly possible whether you do that or take them at the same time. I just wanted to note that because I don't think that's noted very often by most CBD places.
Sure. That was a great tip. So we've got one more to share with you, which was in relationship to lifestyle, I think is the other area that you really feel like people can help themselves be successful when they start working with CBD.
Yeah, I mean, it's a broad category, but I think it would definitely include alcohol consumption and minimizing that because it can really get in the way of CBD success. Nicotine, I think, we'll be visiting these topics and going into them in more detail in a future episode. But nicotine, I have seen, and I need the study on this, that it really has a very counterproductive effect on CBD's benefits in the system. So that would be a big one to consider in this. Sugar. It's like how much sugar we know is so pro-inflammatory. So how much sugar are you taking in and taking CBD for inflammation at the same time? Like, maybe it can counteract some of that, maybe. How much? Totally depends on a million factors that, we don't know for sure. But, if you're taking something for anti-inflammatory purposes, also look at other things in your diet that are pro-inflammation, and sugar is a main one, especially around this time of year. And then there's always the sedentary lifestyle factors as well. I don't know, Adrian, if you have anything you want to add to.
Yeah, I think it's just important that we list all these things, and it sounds like so much like, oh my gosh, as a listener, maybe I'm thinking, well, now I got to change my diet. I got to stop drinking. I got to go on a walk. I got to do yoga. I got to talk to my doctor. I mean, honestly, if we're just being realistic, nobody does anything in real extremes and is successful with it, right? So like Jessica had mentioned earlier, start by taking a few deep breaths, right? There's many apps when it comes to that you can download on your phone that, talk about like meditation for 5 minutes. Maybe you incorporate that, and maybe you reduce your sugar intake from however many 100 milligrams down to by half, right? So instead of 5 sodas a day, maybe you're consuming 2. And then so you're taking these baby steps that should, again, make you overall healthier, help CBD help you, and things will get easier as you work your way through some of these other topics. I think it's really about not going to extremes, not saying, okay, I'm going to check all these boxes today, because not many people are very successful when it comes to that. And they're definitely not successful long-term.
Yeah. And it's taken people a while to get where they are. So having an expectation, back to your original point, having an expectation that's in alignment with the changes that you're making today. And I think it sounds like you're also recommending be patient.
Yeah.
Patience,
Absolutely.
consistency. Just trying to be more in tune to your body. How is CBD actually affecting you? Again, like, are you just expecting 100% relief of X symptom and writing it off if it's 50% or something? So just being more in tune with how it actually is affecting you. And I definitely want to mention in the lifestyle thing, prioritizing sleep. I know a lot of people take CBD because it helps them with sleep, but I'm sure there are plenty of people listening, including myself, who just need to be hearing, prioritize the importance of sleep and how valuable that is. I think we live in a culture where it's almost glorified to be sleep deprived. Oh, I sleep 5 hours and drink a pot of coffee every morning or whatever. But to really try and prioritize the importance of getting a good night rest as much as you can. Certainly that's a challenge for many people.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's in particular, you think about parents, right? So we're all parents. And so, but you spend all this time with, at work, and then you spend the time with the kids, homework, dinner, bath, bedtime, playtime, whatever. They go to sleep. And by that time you're exhausted, but you also need that time to decompress. And sadly, we all go to our phone, right? Or you go to your favorite show and you watch that. And then it ends up being after midnight, but you have to be up at 6 because you got to make breakfast, got to get the kids to school. So it really is. So when you put the kids to bed, just like when they were infants, when we tell moms, you sleep when the baby sleeps, I think that we would do us all some good if we would actually follow that advice today.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. So you guys have shared so many amazing tips today. If people were seeking more information, wanted to know a little bit more about what you do and the products that you offer, where would be a great place for them to find that information?
Yeah, absolutely. Check out our website, bluegrasshempoil.com. We have blogs. We also have Facebook pages and Instagram pages. So go and follow and like us there.
Fantastic. Well, for this episode of Full Spectrum Living with CBD, I am your co-host Meredith, here with our hosts Jessica and Adrian, and we will see you the next time.
Bye.
Bye.